make sure you don't ignore these red flags of a narcissist. What's the first thing that you look for? This is a person who is probably the most charming, most charismatic, most incredible person that you have ever met on the planet. And they make you feel like you are the most special, amazing, incredible human being that they have ever met. The stars have aligned. Where have you been all of their lives? They call it love bombing, but it doesn't matter. It could be a business relationship too. I was in a business relationship with a narcissist, and I know you're over there thinking, wow, where has this person been all my life? Everything you like, they like. Everything that you can imagine, they can imagine. And you know why? Because they're mirroring you. They use these mirror neurons. And so they've been studying you. They've been looking at you because narcissists know how to read people. They've been studying you. It is literally a survival technique that they've learned since childhood. They had trauma when they were children, and the only survival technique that they really know is how to read people and how to get what they want out of people. They know how to use people. So using people for their own gain, for their own opportunistic gain, is the one thing that they're really, really good at. Yes, their true colors show up later on, and it doesn't take that long, quite frankly. But at the beginning, you really feel like, wow, I mean, totally swept up off your feet and almost like you can't breathe, you know. And if you try to see any of those red flags at the beginning, because they start to crop up fairly quickly, they shoot them down as quickly as they come up. They want you to only see those incredible, amazing things right away. Look at how much we have in common. Look at how the stars have aligned. I have all the perfect clients for you, or look at all these things that we have in common. We're just soulmates on every level. And then they want to get to that next level as quickly as possible. Whatever it is, if they're in a business relationship with you, or even if it's a personal relationship, they're rushing you to that next level as fast as possible because they want to lock you in as fast as possible, because they want to get to the point where they're taking withdrawals from the relationship. They're depositing at the beginning, but they want to take withdrawals as fast as possible. You know, if it's moving in together, if it's meeting the family, if it's signing contracts, let's become business partners, let's, you know, whatever it is, let's get to that next stage as fast as possible, because they want to start taking withdrawals as quickly as they possibly can. Where can we get to that next level as fast as possible? That's one of the red flags that you'll see, moving as quickly as possible to that next stage. And then as soon as you get to that next stage, you start to see those red flags. The stories don't add up. You see some lying, you see some projection, you see some denying. And this is where you start to see where they start to manipulate. You start to see the lying. You start to see where they're not so interested in you right away. You start to see ghosting. You know, all of a sudden they're not responding to your text messages right away anymore. Now you're needy, very, very hypersensitive to criticism. Even if you might say something about that they came home late, or they don't want to have that for dinner, or whatever, every little thing is potentially a criticism. And then that could become a massive disagreement, a massive personal attack. And you might even find yourself defending them for yourself, because, you know, you've made this decision to be in this relationship with them. And if they come across as moody, or, you know, they're late, or they're not doing things in a certain way, and other people are starting to see those true colors, if you find yourself kind of making excuses on their behalf, I want you to look at those red flags on your behalf because, if you're starting to make excuses for them, well, they had a difficult childhood. Well, they're having a bad week. Well, they didn't have a good day. They didn't get you a birthday present or something. And everybody's sort of noticing they didn't get you a birthday present. And you're having to say, well, they didn't have much money. They had a bad month or whatever. And you're making excuses for them. I want you to really take note of that. Really think about what it is that you want in a relationship. They would say that they were going to do something and then didn't, or they would lie to a client and, what was going on with that, lying about money and, what's happening with that. If you feel like something underlying is going on and something is off, like they're not really quite happy for you when they should be. And then you ask them about it. Well, I'm just, why are you pushing on this? I'm not feeling well. It's not that. It's, I just didn't have a good day. I just didn't hear you right. And they're always making excuses. You just can tell they're not really caring about you. And things just feel manipulative. They feel like they're jealous of you. And there's just this underlying current of something going on. Maybe you find out that they said something about you behind your back. And then when you ask them about it, they say, oh, that person was twisting my words. I didn't put it exactly that way. That's not how I said it. But that maybe something isn't quite right.
Narcissistic personality disorder is a personality disorder that affects so many people, and it's a stealth kind of personality disorder that most people don't even understand or see until the evil part of it arrives. These people that have this have no sense of value of other people. They really don't hold anything of value to anybody. They are abusive, and they don't start out that way. They start out extremely charming. They start out where they are sudden soulmates with someone, and most of the time while they're in a relationship, their neighbors, their friends, their coworkers will never see the signs that they are being abusive at home.
Now, Tracy, I know you mentioned on your website and in your podcast that you yourself are a survivor of several relationships with narcissists. And this is what's led you to be so passionate about educating people on the topic. Would you mind sharing a little bit of your personal story? Because I think it will sound familiar to many of our listeners.
Sure. I did not know what narcissistic personality disorder was, or that there were people out there that were this crazy. And yet, when I learned about it because I had been in a marriage, and my divorce was just like the things that kept getting thrown at me, the lies, and now I know them as gaslighting, the things that were coming at me, I didn't understand them at all. So I had just gone through this horrific divorce without a label, without understanding, just really confused as to what the heck happened. And I went into a rather quick relationship after that. I was swooped up by another narcissist, only this one was the reason I came to learn all about this. He had me arrested falsely, which is something that happens a lot with victims, because a narcissist will revert to anything that will kind of take you out of the way, get you out of their hair, and without any care or concern for anyone. So once I started to learn about that, for him, people said, look up gaslighting. He's gaslighting you. I looked it up, and it explained my whole divorce. It explained my mother-in-law, my sister's, my own mother. So there was a reason I didn't see this type of behavior. It was because I grew up with people that would ghost me. And I was used to my sisters just disappearing off the face of the earth for no reason at all. And so when I was in a relationship, that just was like, oh, that's not how normal people are in a relationship. So learning about it and trying to understand it, it put me into this seems like it's a calling for me to stand on a soapbox and never stop talking about it, never stop learning, and never stop teaching about it.
Well, first of all, I just want to congratulate you for not continuing to be in that victim mentality, to see this as a calling, to see this as an opportunity. That's what we really want our entire show to be about, that the divorce and the bad things that happen as a result of divorce are actually opportunities for growth and change. So I'm really, I'm impressed that that's what you see it as, and as a result have obviously helped many, many people. So I want to ask you about the warning signs of narcissists and how you can spot them. But if you could, just before you get to that, just give a little bit of a definition on gaslighting, because I don't know that everyone knows exactly what that is. And you did mention that term. So if you could just give a definition of gaslighting, and then go into what the red flags are for narcissists.
Sure. Gaslighting is a way that they try to manipulate the victim to think they're crazy. That means they're telling you stories that simply didn't happen, and insisting that you're the crazy one, that you don't remember it happening that specific way. So it challenges your mind to really dig deep and question, did that happen? And over time, they slowly wear you down to the point where you are questioning yourself. And most survivors that I talk to just sit there with this dumbfounded look on their faces going, I know that didn't happen, and yet he's convinced me or she's convinced me over and over, and finally they give up. There's no hope for them, and they just give up the reality that they thought was real, and they've lost themselves. So it feels really icky, if you would say. It feels that you have no control over what's going to happen, and of course you're walking on eggshells during that, because if you say, no, that's not how I remember it, you'll generally be met with anger. You'll be met with the conflict of the story, and they're telling you, no, this isn't how it is, and you're crazy. How could you believe that? How could you, don't you remember? And it's that kind of wearing down of a person that is their intention. There's a great movie from the 1940s called Gaslighting. And if you haven't seen it, it's really creepy with the old music that they used to play in the background. But the man would actually hide things on his wife and then ask her where her pearl necklace was. And when she would go look for it, she'd be like, oh no, he's going to get so mad at me that I've lost it. But he was manufacturing this lie, manufacturing her to think that she was crazy. And that's what gaslighting is.
Can I ask, do the narcissists, the people doing the crazy making, coming up with this alternate version of what happened, do they know they're doing it? Is it is this a plan on their part? I know in that movie, I've seen that movie, and it is fascinating, but that was a very well thought out, plan to make that person think they were going crazy. Do narcissists know what they're doing?
I believe they do, yes, because they're creating this alternate reality. And do they know that they're doing it to mess with your mind? That's to be debated. Do they stick to a story that they believe is true and just push that on? Yes, they do. So I believe that they are doing it intentionally, and there's a maliciousness to it. It's about taking away someone's power. And gaslighting, as all abuse is control. So once they know that they can control you by convincing you of something that didn't happen, then they can control you about every other thing in their life and in your life. So it's a step ladder, if you would, to further and further abuse. If they are not able to mind control you, because that's what gaslighting is, if they're not able to do that, you probably will not be in the relationship very long, because they're looking for someone that they can control. So as soon as you see this reality, which generally happens at the end, at the discard, there's 3 stages of abuse. So it's idealization, and then it's devalue, and after that comes the discard. And most people don't see this kind of behavior until they're out of it, or on the other side looking in going, oh, that's what that was. And so I do believe that they know it and they see it, because it's just, okay, if I can check that box that I got that person to accept this story that I told them, they've got one more step on the control ladder for you.
So back to, I think, Rebecca's question there then. So when someone's getting into a relationship or is in a relationship that's tortured, what are the warning signs or red flags?
Well, there's hundreds of them. There's behavior red flags. There's action red flags. At the beginning, they're certainly different, because the charm that these people have is what captivates everyone. Nobody goes into a relationship going, I want to be with the devil. They just don't. They come into it because the person is everything they've ever dreamed of. And that's part of the red flag kind of abusive behavior, where seems so natural to be sharing your story with the new person in your life, to share every detail that's happened to you before. But what they're doing is they're actually making a list of everything that has happened to you, knowing that they can also get away with it because you didn't see it. So when you're going into a relationship, it's important to know that anyone who rushes intimacy, rushes that relationship. I've heard people get married in 2 months, and it was so whirlwind and it was so amazing. And yet the second they got married, like, the person completely changed. So it's in that stage. If they're not patient with you and not willing to give you the time, that's a sign that they're trying to rush you to confuse you. By rushing someone into something and making them feel so wonderful, on a normal spectrum, that would be a great thing. But on an abusive schedule, that's where they're really just figuring out how to abuse you. And you'll start to see holes in the story. So lies are like gaslighting, lies that just don't make sense. And if they've told you one thing and yet the reality is something else, that's a huge red flag for someone to look at in a relationship. And if they start to isolate you, it's so stealth. You don't really think, oh gosh, he's cutting off my family. But slowly but surely, they pluck off your friends, and they go for the weak ones first. When they meet your friends and your family, they're interviewing them too. How is your alliance? How strong are they going to defend and stick up for you? If your family or your friends say, well, she's a very good storyteller, they're going to use that against you later. So they're gathering intel from your friends. And then if your friends and family can be coerced later into becoming what we call flying monkeys, which is kind of like the witch and the Wizard of Oz used the monkeys to do her bidding. That's what flying monkeys are in a narcissistic kind of relationship. But as you're dating and you're interviewing this person, red flags to look for is are there a lot of crazy people in their life? Is their ex a crazy ex? Are they an alcoholic, drug addict? There's a whole list of things that they will, instantly attach to their ex. That's not normal. If everyone in their past is crazy, probably why would they be there? There's something you have to look at. If they experience and display anger towards you for questioning them, they don't like to be questioned. And of course, in the beginning, you're not necessarily questioning. You're believing that love story. You're not going, well, that doesn't make sense. But if you start to question those things, and they get angry, that's definitely a sign that you have to watch out for. And if you feel like any single fight could end a relationship, then that's not a good feeling either. That's not something that you should be thinking is a good, healthy relationship.
First, Judy, tell us more about you, more about your background, how you got where you are.
Sure. So just a little bit about my cultural background. I was born in Budapest, Hungary. I'm a survivor of Holocaust
Wow.
parents. And
Amazing.
yeah, and my mission since I was a little girl was to heal the world. I just thought that if I personally don't heal the world is going to blow up. So can you imagine the responsibility?
Oh my
Got to do
God.
something. You know, if I don't do something, everybody's going to blow up. So
Oh
I
my
think
God.
it started somewhere in there at a very early age. And then I, like yourself, had children. I have 2 grown sons and a beautiful grandson, beautiful family. And I think my first experience was with narcissism was that I didn't even know it was narcissism. I thought it was normal, the way my family talked to each other. Basically, here, I'll give you my definition of narcissism. In a nutshell, it's a system gone wrong where the parents put their feelings before the child. I just thought that was normal. So I up to a point, but then I started questioning it. There's something wrong here. And so having had a lot of experience with narcissists, both within my family and in the friendship circle and in various relationships, I soon learned that there was a pattern going on there. And then I got very interested in where that pattern came from and what the blueprint was behind it. And so I was always a kind of a causal thinker. I was more interested in, why is this the way it is? Why are people constantly choosing the same dynamics? Why are they constantly being tripped up by certain insults and certain treatment? So this was an evolution. Back in 2002, I was taking a Kabbalah course.
Oh, that's so funny. I took Kabbalah as well.
You did?
I did. I studied Kabbalah for a couple of years, actually, in like 2005 to 2007, somewhere around in there.
Okay, well, interestingly enough, I started doodling a little solution to healing global disconnect, and it was following the creation model: creation, destruction, reintegration. And so it became my mind map, and it was meant to heal global disconnect. Never did I think that it would be my psychological model. And I had a plan to launch this global project called Join the Human Race, Healing Global Disconnect. And it didn't quite turn out that way because I didn't have the budget to launch a global project. I didn't know how to do it. And so I thought, okay, it's an interesting model. I think I'll try it on my patients on the micro level. And that's where the mind map, that's how the mind map was born. And then the specialty of narcissism evolved because I didn't really know that so many people were injured in this way until I started getting call after call after call. And then the popularity about narcissism, covert narcissism, overt narcissism grew. And then by then people were saying, I'm a mess. I don't know what happened, but I feel completely diminished. What can I do to heal? And
yeah, I mean, narcissists literally suck the life out of you. I mean, they literally are like leeches.
Yes. I call it the vampiring effect.
Yeah. I didn't even realize that until I was dealing with narcissists of my own, but I literally, one in particular that I had to deal with, I felt like was literally draining the life out of me.
Yes.
And I said, it's like a leech, but I had I didn't even have the vocabulary to go, oh, it's an energy vampire, or it's this, or it's that. I hadn't studied anything about narcissism yet. I just knew that that's how I felt.
Well, over time, I developed a vocabulary vocabulary, and the vocabulary includes words like psychovirus and the vampiring effect and the double dungeon of darkness, where you cannot turn to your mother, you cannot turn to your father. So basically you're checkmated in your emotions. And so you start degenerating because you don't have the inner strength, you don't have the core sense of self. As you were talking about earlier, we were talking about how this empty shell needs to be fed all the time. So the parents are supposed to do that in the first phase of life. And if that's not done, there's this hollowness and emptiness. And
I just lost you there. Hello, hello, hello.
nobody to turn to. So they
I just want,
basically have
hey,
to suck and
hold on one second, because Judy,
Okay.
can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay,
it froze.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
froze, and so I didn't hear anything after hollowness or emptiness. So if you could just go
Okay.
back. So let me
Yeah.
just go back and start recording again. Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay.
So there's this hollowness and emptiness.
Yes, I call it a double dungeon of darkness, because how we form our core sense of self, we blueprint off of our parents. They're supposed to give us eye contact, skin contact, attunement, mirroring, breastfeeding, etc. And if we don't get those elements, I call it psychological nutrients. If we don't get those psychological nutrients, then we're not really building that core sense of self. And if we don't have anybody to turn to, then we will start borrowing energy, that vampiring that takes place, and we borrow people's energy because we don't want to, the person doesn't want to collapse inside. And so that's where the other person will feel sucked dry.
That is such a beautiful way of describing it, because they just have this little inner fragile ego that they need to, they just feel like they need to constantly feed externally with this narcissistic supply, and that's how they do it. By pulling it from other people, but it's this black hole. It can never be filled.
That's correct. Right.
And they can never heal. I mean, they can't be rehabilitated.
They can't. What I'm finding is that most people will fire their therapist because they don't want to go there. They don't want to go into the hole in the soul. They've survived that way. It's a very, very difficult journey, because you have to awaken or develop empathy. Without empathy, you can't truly connect to another human being. And so when empathy has been burned out of your system, or never even taught as a model, then you're operating on a whole new level. Then it's power and control. So you don't have faith in human connection. So if you don't have faith in human connection, let's buy some pretty objects. Let's play with people. Let's use this person or that person to muster up a sense of self. So it's a really, really ugly game. And it ends up breaking down into chaos, defenses, and then the final breakdown, because systems that are not sustainable, as you know, they collapse.
Yeah, and that's the discard phase.
That's the discard phase, correct.
Yeah.
Right.
And during the discard phase, you still see them coming back and love bombing and all that sort of thing, because the love bomb is really a methodology of control that they use.
Yeah, because they just want to put you in formaldehyde. They want you up on the shelf, and then they want Betty or Larry or Henry or whoever all up there waiting for them to reconnect. Because as you mentioned, the other side of the coin is that they often pair with empaths. They often pair with people who have been injured at a causal level, and they too have not received the emotional supplies from their parents, and they have abandonment issues. So when you pull up their abandonment issues, they're very, very ready to hang on again or reconnect with the toxic tie, because love in any form in this particular dynamic is better than no love at all. So they will play on that, and it is really, really disastrous for the person who is involved with the narcissist, because it's a never-ending game until somebody intercepts the game and pulls the plug on the lies and systems gone wrong that make up for this entire dance.
Fed up with narcissists walking all over you? Sick of everyone believing their lies while you're paying through the nose in attorney's fees? What if you could hold all the cards for a change? Hey, I'm Rebecca Zung. I'm a top 1% trial attorney, a USA Today bestselling author, and I've spent my entire career helping people slay narcissists in negotiations, most recently through my proven slay method. What if your suffering could become your superpower? Imagine turning all that pain into power, not just for you, but for others too. This is your chance to take back control. You can finally win. Become a high conflict negotiation certified coach. Help others while transforming your own life, and do good for the world. This is your chance. Go to RebeccaZung.com/apply, and I'll show you how to turn the tables for good starting today. All right, so early red flags of narcissists. Early, before they even come near you. I want to make sure that you get like this cone of safety around you. Right? So maybe you've been in a relationship with a narcissist. Maybe you're trying to get out of one right now. And if that's you, if you're trying to get out of one right now, by the way, I have a free ebook that you got to get. It's free Crush My Negotiation Prep Worksheet that you got to get. You just go to crushmydeal.com, free ebook. You can just get that. Just go ahead and grab that. I've had many people win their entire negotiations on it. Just go to crushmydeal.com and get that. But if you are even thinking that you might be in a relationship, these are the early signs. I'm going to give you 6 of them, and you're going to want to stay all the way to the end and see what all 6 of them are. All right. So number 1 is it's a really, really fast moving relationship, really fast moving. You know, they're like right away, it's overwhelming fast. You know, they got to get to it. And you're almost overwhelmed at how quickly they're moving along this relationship. And you know, you don't have a chance to catch your breath. That's how it is. By the way, this is business or personal. I was in a business relationship with a narcissist, and I felt this too in the business relationship. It moves very, very quickly. So that's number 1. Number 2, the second big major red flag of a narcissist is that they'll say things like your soulmates, things like that. You know, they'll start saying things that will make you feel like, wow, where has this person been all of my life? Right away. I mean, they might even say that on the first date, or maybe even before the first date, they'll say things like that. So that's number 2, early red flag that you are in a relationship with a narcissist. Number three, they will say things like their ex is just crazy. They'll start right away with how horrible their ex is and how awful it was with their ex. I mean, they might even say how horrible their ex is with their kids, that they're alienating them with their kids. And it was just an awful, traumatic situation with their ex. That's another massive early red flag that you are in a relationship with a narcissist. If you are with a person that has a great relationship with their ex, that's a good sign. That's actually a good sign. Okay. Conversely, the number 4 early red flag that you are in a relationship with a narcissist is that they love everything that you love. What narcissists do is they study you. They actually study you and they start mirroring you. They actually kind of become you. They start figuring out what it is that you like. And now all of the sudden, they almost want to align with everything that you love so that you almost sort of fall in love with yourself in a way. They're very, very good at reading people. They've been doing this for years. I don't know if many of you have read the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, where he talked about it took 10,000 hours to achieve mastery. Well, this is way more than 10,000 hours. These are people who have taken years and years and years to achieve mastery and manipulation since they were children. It's a survival mechanism. And so what they have done is actually studied people since they were children, and what they needed to do was to survive was look to see what they needed to do to become that person, to become likable. And so they really almost become that person just to get in with them, just to become assimilated, just to get to that next level of commitment. They love everything that you love initially. And I have a whole series of videos on this love bombing, and then they go into devaluing and then the discard phase. And you can check out my videos on the 3 different levels of a narcissistic relationship yourself if you would like. And now, after all of this, your eyes will be wide open. So I want you to put that in the comments right now. Eyes wide open, because that's where you'll be from now on, eyes wide open. So that's number 4. Number 5 early red sign of narcissism is they'll tell you a sob story to get you to feel sorry for them. You know, maybe they had a horrible childhood. Life hasn't been fair to them. They'll tell you all about how awful things have been for them so that you start to feel sorry for them. Maybe their parents weren't good to them or something happened to them, because they want you to start to empathize for them, have compassion for them, take care of them, start giving them that narcissistic supply that they're seeking. They're going to look to see if you are going to be a good source of narcissistic supply for them. That's what they're going to be looking for. All right. So they're drawing you in, bringing you in to see and starting to test you to see if you are going to be a good source of value, a good source of supply for them. Another early red flag of narcissism, telling you a sob story. All right. That's number 5. And number 6, the last one, is your gut. Trust your gut. You're going to know, you're going to feel like something is off. You're just going to feel it because it's going to be rushed along. They're going to be moving you along. You're going to be feeling like, oh man, put the brakes on. Something is happening. It's going way too fast. And even when you start to go, you know what, maybe this is moving too fast. I don't know about this. They're going to be going, oh no, this is not moving too fast. We are soulmates. This was meant to be. They're going to be, every time you start to have concerns, they're going to have an answer for you. They're going to be right there, not even giving you that chance to breathe, not giving you that chance to think, because they're going to be right there in your face with the emails, flooding your inbox, showing up wherever all the time. And they're going to know exactly what to say, be perfect at every moment until they lock you in. And that'll be the next level. I'm telling you, the word narcissist, it gets thrown around like candy. Here, a narcissist for you, a narcissist for everybody. But there are certain behaviors and personality traits that are definitely red flags for narcissism. So if you see any of these for someone, it's safe to say this person is probably a narcissist. So this is a person who they have to be the center of attention. A lot of people have to be the center of attention, but we're talking about a person who literally has to derive all of their value from external sources. They don't feel anything inside of them. Nothing. I'm not saying they don't have value. I'm saying they don't feel like they have any value inside. All human beings are inherently valuable. I'm talking about a person who doesn't feel like they have any value inside of them. All of their value is coming from outside of them. They feel totally and completely empty inside. That's what causes them to be very insecure, very, very insecure, because everything is coming from outside sources. Then everything is shifting constantly, right? If you're around them, you might want to help them feel valuable. You're pouring stuff into them all the time, but there's like a sieve in there. It's like a black hole. And so it's almost like they're starving, gasping for breath, desperate for air. They're in scarcity mode all the time. It can never be filled. It can never be filled. And so you're left feeling totally and completely starving. They're still empty inside. And it's this cycle that can never be broken. It can never be handled. All right. So that's what's going on all the way at the end of the spectrum. Yes, it's a spectrum, so at the end of the spectrum, you've got narcissistic personality disorder on one end. On the other end, you've got whoever you think your perfect human being is on the other end, the person who feels totally whole and complete and needs no outside, nothing to feel totally whole and complete. So, Dalai Lama or Jesus or whoever you think is a perfect human being. Okay. And then the rest of us who vacillate somewhere in between are in between. So they always have to be the center of attention. They're incredibly vain and obsessed with their appearance, and their self-worth is all based on external factors. And so because of that, they're very easily slighted. And, the minute they're slighted at all, they're extremely triggered, constantly triggered. You never know what's going to set them off, right? And that triggering is that narcissistic injury, which could cause narcissistic rage to come flying out. And so this is a person who also, coupled with all of this, has no empathy, literally no ability to have any empathy for anybody else. Because think about it, if all you're thinking about is survival all the time, then you can't think about anybody but yourself, because it's all you can see is you all the time. It's very difficult to see past yourself if all you can see is you. All right. And that's why they don't have any empathy for anybody else. Now, their self-worth is based on these external factors, but it's kind of a double thing going on. There's like this, which we call narcissistic supply. The supply sources can be what I call diamond level supply, which is how they look to the world. And that is impressive friends, amazing cars, houses, the best of everything, how they look on social media, the number of likes they're getting, how successful they are professionally, excessive admiration, adulation, all those things, their accomplishments. So they're constantly bragging about their accomplishments. Now, covert narcissists may not tend to brag about themselves as much. They might tend to be more of like the victim mentality. Oh, woe is me. But they're still every bit as much the narcissist. But they might tend to be a little bit more humble about it. They might tend to be more passive aggressive, and they might present themselves in the form of a humanitarian or something like that, but they're still every bit as much of a narcissist. Okay. They still have an inflated sense of self-importance. They still feel like they should have some kind of special treatment about them. Still very, very manipulative. All narcissists are extremely manipulative. They think that they have to manipulate in order to get what they want. They lie constantly. They stretch the truth. They withhold information. They withhold information about the truth. They withhold sex. They withhold resources. They withhold compliments. There's all sorts of things that they withhold, but they can be extremely charming when they want to be. They can love bomb you. They can future fake you. Oh, things are going to get better. You'll see, when they need to be. But everything is always a manipulation. So these are some of the signs that you've seen. Now, if any of you have seen any of these so far, give me a totally in the comments. Totally in the comments. All right. So these are signs that near certainty definitely guarantee somebody has narcissism. So if you've seen these, definitely stay away. Stay away. All right. So very egocentric. They think the world should revolve around them. Extremely sensitive to criticism. As I mentioned, they will definitely lash out if things don't go their way. They can go crazy over the smallest of things because, even if you use a certain tone that they find to be a slight, I always say narcissists hear tones like dogs hear whistles, like you didn't even use it to you. Nobody heard a tone. They heard tone. Very jealous of others, extremely jealous of others, competitive. Everything's got to be a competition, threatened by other people's success many times, always have to be right, especially in social situations. You can't take away from them in a social situation at all, even the smallest of things in social situations, because, especially in front of people that they respect, that could be the worst possible thing that you could do. And, if things don't go their way, they can become defensive, angry, tantrums, even sometimes. Those are some of the things that you can see. And if you see some of these things, you definitely probably dealing with a narcissist, because normal, regular, reasonable, say non-narcissistic people, they don't tend to need this like this. You can just tell, you can feel it in your gut. I have people around me, they call it the spidey sense. You can feel it on the back of your head. You can feel it, the hair on the back of your neck stands up. You can definitely tell when it's happening, right? And I know for me, I could tell when I had a narcissistic business partner. I was, you see the signs, you start seeing things not adding up. You're like, some lies happening there, and, projection, deflection, lying, denying, it's somebody else's fault, never their fault. You start to see things happening. And, what happens is you start looking the other way. And if you start finding yourself making excuses for them, don't do that. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Don't make excuses for them. Get out of there. Go flying out of there like your hair is on fire, because it's not going to get better. Here we go. Let's talk about what's going on beneath that narcissist, that hidden evil. They do seem so evil. And I'm telling you, some people feel like they're like gripped by the devil or whatever. And this is not a video about religion. I'm not going to get into religion. I'm not going to be talking about any of that. But they do seem like they're evil. They do seem like they're malicious. They do seem like they're after you. And the bottom line is that they are. They're after you, especially if you're in that discard phase, especially if you are in that final stage of the relationship. And what is going on underneath there? What's happening? with that. And I've been on that other side of it. I know how you feel. Not only have I seen it many thousands of times as an attorney, and I've coached people through that situation, I've also felt it. I've been the target of it. So I've been in many different realms. And so sometimes that hidden evil isn't so hidden. It comes all the way out at you. They're hiding it from everybody else in the world, but you're seeing it directly, right? So what is happening there? Why is this happening? And I know so often you sit there and you go, this isn't fair. This isn't right. I didn't do anything wrong. I was so good to this person. Believe me, I know. Believe me, I know. And believe me, I know because having been in a relationship, in relationships with narcissists, it's not equitable. You know, you end up being the one doing so much more for them and giving so much more and being taken advantage of, because they do take advantage. They take advantage of your goodness. They take advantage of your soul. They take advantage of everything you're willing to do for them. You end up being their janitor, their caregiver, their everything for them, right? I mean, you'll do whatever it takes a lot of times. And a lot of times you think, how did I end up here? How did I end up being this person for this person? And eventually you think, well, they're going to see how good I am. They're going to see how much I've given them. And eventually they're going to acknowledge it and they're going to appreciate it. Well, they don't. And eventually you realize that. And eventually you just are so sucked dry and you're so raw and so traumatized. And you've got this complex post-traumatic stress disorder because it happens over and over and over again. And the difference between that and regular post-traumatic stress disorder, which happens as a result of maybe one thing that happened, you know, which is like war or an accident or something, is that this happens over and over and over. It's a continuous thing that kept happening, is that it happens and it's your health and you can't think straight and you've got brain fog. It eventually takes over your organs and you have autoimmune problems and all sorts of things. So what's going on? Well, fundamentally, they have their own sense of emptiness, their own sense of pain. They don't feel any sense of value inside of them. And hurt people. If they don't end up taking care of their own wounds, then they end up bleeding all over everybody else. And that's what happens. They end up bleeding all over everybody else. It just happens over and over and over again. You cannot help it. You cannot stop it. You cannot help them. You didn't cause it. You didn't control it. You can't cure it. The 3 C's. Those 3 C's were developed for Al-Anon, for people who are alcoholics or addicts, but it goes for narcissists too. Forget about trying to get them to see your side. Forget about trying to get them to acknowledge you. Forget about getting them to say they're sorry. It's not going to happen. So just move on. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. We often talk about red flags we should avoid, but what if we focus more on green flags in friends and partners, whether you're dating, married, building a friendship, or just working on yourself from time to time? So how about we work on the relationships that are going to love you back, including yourself? I know for me, therapy has been absolutely game-changing and learning how to love myself, set boundaries, and overcome all sorts of blocks I didn't even realize I was creating for myself. I just knew I wanted to be the best version of myself that I could be. What I love about BetterHelp is that They make therapy totally accessible and convenient. The network is totally diverse, more than 30,000 credentialed therapists with a wide range of specialties. Plus, if you don't gel with one, you can just easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. Discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/negotiate today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/negotiate. Okay, so let's learn about little known facts about narcissistic love bombing that you probably never knew before. Number one is it has nothing to do with love. In fact, while they start off maybe saying they love you, even maybe before you start dating, it actually has nothing to do with love. It has everything to do with manipulation. In fact, everything narcissists do has to do with manipulation. Everything they do is a manipulation. It has to do with control. They use love bombing as a way to get you started, conditioning you. So what they're doing is conditioning you from the beginning to get you into their web, to get you into their lair. They use charm, they use their charisma, they use their personality. They have learned early on to mirror you. And I've heard many people actually say they kind of fell in love with themselves, which is sort of true in a way, because they kind of are very, very adept at seeing what it is that you want to see. That's one thing they're very, very good at. They read people in an excellent way. It's a survival skill for them that they've learned from the beginning. You know, from the time that they were very, very young, they knew that they had to start to read people in order to be able to get what they want, in order to survive. You know, narcissists are people that had, probably a fair amount of trauma in their childhoods, or their needs weren't met in some way. And so in order to get their needs met, they had to learn how to read people. The first thing is narcissistic love bombing has nothing to do with love. It has everything to do with, charming people in order to condition them so that they can start to get what they want. It's a deposit that they're making so that they can start making withdrawals in order to get what they want. And they do this so that they can get to phase 2 as quickly as possible, which is the withdrawal phase. Let me tell you, it doesn't matter if it's a business relationship or a personal relationship, which is number 2 little known fact. The number 2 little known fact is that they use this in all relationships, not just romantic ones. So, whether it's a business relationship or a personal relationship, they will use this type of love bombing. Sometimes it's called the idealization phase, because it seems too perfect. Like, where has this person been all of my life? And I know, because I was in a business relationship with a covert narcissist who seemed absolutely perfect at the beginning. Where has this person been? Oh my gosh, they have all the perfect contacts. They say all the right things. They seem to have all the skill sets that you need for a or whatever it is, so, and they want to immediately get into the next level, invest in the company, or get their names on things, or get to something where they want you to be committed as soon as possible, because they don't want to have to make deposits for very long. They want you to be the one who's giving them the value and not vice versa. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3 is love bombing is not just at the beginning of the relationship. They'll use it at many different times during the relationship. They start to devalue you, which is sort of the next part of the relationship. And then they will go back to using the love bombing when necessary. So, if they sense that you're going to be leaving and you're kind of done, tired of them manipulating you, ghosting you, this crazy hot and cold situation, then they will start to love bomb you again to get you back into, pull you back in. They use it in many different situations. Sometimes it's called future faking. Sometimes it's called hoovering, or different terms. But they use love bombing, or this kind of charm that they have, to manipulate you in different ways. So it's something that they use to get what it is that they want. Okay, so it's used in many different times, different ways in the relationship, not just at the beginning of the relationship. Again, not just business, not just personal, and it has nothing to do with love. So, but it's not just at the beginning of the relationship either. And number 4, as I mentioned, they use love bombing to manipulate. It is a tool that is used in order to get what it is that they want. So, for example, if they're supposed to accomplish a task, for example, they were supposed to do something for the business, a business plan. Oh yes, I'm going to do it. It's not done. And, months go by, it hasn't been accomplished. And then you're finally like, you know what, this business partnership is not working out. I'm tired of asking you over and over again to accomplish these various tasks, including write this business plan. You haven't done it. I've been doing all the work here. I think since I'm doing all the work, I might as well just be on my own. Well, then all of a sudden they'll come back and say, oh, you know what? I will do everything that you ask. I will get the plan done. Look at me. I promise that you'll see in the future it'll be different. And then suddenly they start to do the work. They start to do the things. Look how amazing you are. They'll start to tell you how incredible you are, how incredible you guys are together. They'll say all the things they need to say, or they'll go back to being the charming, incredible person that you remember at the beginning. So they use love bombing to manipulate you. I would love to know the types of things that you guys have seen, the types of phrases that you guys have seen as far as love bombing. Go ahead and put those in the comments. You're perfect for me. We're soulmates. You sweep me off my feet. I've never met anybody like you. You guys have seen things like that. Go ahead and put those in the comments, because that's the kind of thing that they say when they're love bombing, right? That's the thing, you'll see when you see love bombing. Number 5 is, I want you to know that love bombing is a deposit. It's a deposit. They expect repayment for it, and quickly. And get used to it. It's almost like a loan shark. They want interest, and they want massive amount back. They want more back than they put into it, like way more. They might have put in like this much. They want this much back in return, and what they want overall is control. They want control over you, and they want your undivided attention and undivided loyalty. If they smell at all that you are not 100% loyal in any way, or any slight of any kind, then there's going to be hell to pay. Because for narcissists, you're either for them or against them. And if you're against them, then you are public enemy number one. So let's talk about the gift giving season with that narcissist in your life, or maybe it's just a red flag that, you know, you're kind of suspecting that person, maybe a narcissist. This is the red flag these are the red flags that'll tell you, yeah, this definitely is a person that maybe I don't want to be spending the rest of my life with. So the first thing that they might give you is exercise equipment. I actually had one of my cousins, her now ex-husband, gave her an abdominizer for one of her birthdays. This is a long time ago. I don't even think that thing exists anymore. But if they're giving you some kind of exercise equipment, then they might be telling you, you know, maybe you could look a little bit better. Maybe you need to lose a little bit of weight, something like that. It's like a subtle little message. It's like, here's a gift, and also a dig and a devalue. So, if you're getting some kind of a gym membership or a Peloton or something like that, maybe it's exactly what you wanted, but also maybe it isn't. And maybe it's a little subtle devaluing dig that the narcissist is giving to you. And if you want to know about narcissistic devaluing, check out my video on narcissistic devaluing, and you can learn all about the different phases of a narcissistic relationship there. And the second gift from that precious little gift giver is tickets to a concert that is their favorite artist, or maybe it's a gift certificate to their favorite restaurant, not yours, or something around, you know, here's a gift for you. I get to come with you, and it's really my favorite thing to do. Something like that. So, you know, if you get something like that, it's sort of like this subtle, you know, I don't really want to have to give you a gift. I mean, narcissists don't really like having to give gifts. They sort of feel like you're making me do something that I don't want to have to do. You know, remember that they're 2-year-olds in adult bodies. So they feel obstinate, you know, I don't want to have to do this. Nobody else should have anything. I should be the one with the attention. I should be the one who, you know, who's getting gifts. I don't want to have to do anything for anybody else. If I have to do something for someone else, it's going to be the bare minimum. And it's going to be, you know, as little skin off my back as possible. So why not give a gift that I at least get some benefit out of too? So that's kind of like the thinking around that. And number 3 is framed photos of themselves. And, you know, this kind of goes in, it helps them in a couple of different ways. One is, obviously, you would want a framed photo of just them. But number 2 is then you have to display it. And then everybody gets to see how much you adore and adulate and love this person. So it kind of is like a twofold gift that way, because now you get this picture of this person and you have to display it, and everybody else gets to see a picture of this person out in your house or your room or wherever as well. And number 4 is something off the sale rack or the clearance rack, because remember, as I said, they don't really want to have to give you a gift. Like, this is something that they know they have to do. So they, you know, if it's a birthday or it's a holiday or something like that, then they'll do the bare minimum. They know they have to show up with something because they don't want to look bad. But if they can get something that looks like it was expensive, like it came from the right store, the right place, but they actually didn't have to really spend that much money for it, that's even better, because now they kind of delight in that a little bit. Like, look at this. Like, I don't have to really spend that much money on this person, and I get credit for giving a gift. You know, they don't think about the fact, like, oh, let me find something that's really going to make this person happy. Let me listen to what it was that they loved. Oh, I heard them mention one time that they really liked this thing. Let me go back and find it. This will make them happy. There's none of that. They don't get any pleasure from seeing others happy. Like, that's the last thing that they want. They don't want to see anybody else happy because they just want that satisfaction for themselves. And if you think narcissists are so selfish, give me a "so selfish" in the comments. So the next thing that they might give you is something that isn't even in your size. And, it might be a piece of clothing or something like that, but it's not your size. And this might happen because, first of all, they maybe don't even care what size you actually are, or they haven't taken the time to look, or maybe they didn't even take the time to look at whatever it was that they were picking out because they were just so quickly trying to spend as little time, as little money, and as little effort as possible in this. Or it might be some little subtle message like, you're a tiny petite, but I'm going to give you a large because I'm going to give you give myself the opportunity to devalue you and make, you think that I think that you're fat, and, kind of give me an opportunity to call you, something without actually saying it. So, giving you something that's not your size, something like that, because, they love passive aggressiveness, especially the covert narcissist. And if you want to know more about how covert narcissists attack, check out my video on the attack of the covert narcissist, but passive aggression is definitely one of their favorite things to do. So by giving you something that's not quite your size, there's a little passive aggressive opportunity to dig at you. And the next one is a promise of a gift in the future. Narcissists are future fakers. If you want to know more about that, check out my video on future faking. But, they might even just show up with nothing for you at all and say, oh, it's because I have no money, I didn't have time, I tried to order something online, it didn't work, some other lie or whatever it is. And so they just show up with nothing, but you are supposed to be so enamored by the fact that they're going to give you something in the future, that they will do something for you amazing coming up. Next week we'll do this, or next month you'll have this. When this money comes in, I'll get you that. And that's supposed to be your fantastic gift. The truth of the matter is, even if they have no money at all, they could certainly write you a nice letter or do something for you. Rub your feet, little coupons for things that they can do for you, or something like that, some kind of effort or thought put into the situation. But if it's just a promise of something in the future, that could be a really big red flag. The next one is regifting a gift from someone else. I actually saw this happen to someone where this person received a gift of a belt buckle and a belt that this person was obviously a re-gift, and they didn't even take the time to notice that the belt didn't fit into the buckle, because they were just so into, I'm just going to re-gift this thing, and therefore I spent no time, no money, and no effort, and I hopefully get the credit for getting this person a gift. And the last one, drum roll please, is something that they know that you hate. How great is that for passive aggression? You hate chocolate? Well, here's a big, massive box of Godiva chocolates for you. Fabulous. You know I hate chocolate. Oh, no, I didn't like. You don't like my gift for you? Oh my gosh, I spent so much time. I spent so much money. Oh my God. And now they, poor babies, become the victims because you don't appreciate them. And it all becomes about that. And so don't you dare try to bring up the fact, why would you get me something that you know that I hate, right? So there they are, the dears. If you get any of these gifts during the holidays, then it may be a red flag that that person that you're with
might be a narcissist.
I've seen them all: covert, overt, grandiose, malignant. Believe me, I've seen them all. So I know what the red flags are that you are in a relationship with a narcissist, and I don't want you to go down that path. So let's dive in and figure out if you are in a relationship with a narcissist right now. Okay. So number one, it's too much too soon. Too much too soon. Right away, you just feel intoxicated by this person. They're sweeping you off your feet, but you're just like, you can't breathe almost, because they want to just move in with you right away. They want to get you into a contract right away. They want to get whatever that next level is. They want to get you to that next level as soon as possible. And so when you are with the person that is just flooding you almost immediately with, if you've got kids, I got to meet your kids. If you've got family, I want to meet your family. I want to move in. I want to, get to that next level as soon as possible. Flooding your emails, flooding your texts. You're the one. You're my soulmate. We have our star crossed. They are letting you know that they've never met anybody like you before. They make you feel like you are the most incredible human being they've ever met. They intoxicate you with their charm, their charisma. Usually they're very well dressed. They're very well groomed. They're very well spoken. They are pretty incredible with everything lining up perfectly. And they've studied you, by the way. They've read you. They know how to read the room. They know how to read you. They've mirrored you. They know how to show up so that all the pheromones are going off, and you're just completely swept off your feet thinking, where has this person been all my life? And this is in a business situation or a romantic situation, by the way. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what kind of a situation it is. And no boundaries. No boundaries, by the way. At the beginning of the relationship, wherever you are, that's where they are. They are everywhere. They are showing up, emails, texts. They are seriously flooding you all the time. It is just too much too soon. So that's number one. That's the love bombing stage. They call it the idealization phase. They're literally conditioning you. This is their input phase. This is the deposits, because they are getting ready to make some hefty withdrawals. And this does not last. They'll say whatever they need to get you to that next level. They'll future fake you to the moon, because, they can say whatever they want to say, because they don't plan on delivering any of it. You've heard the term bait and switch. That's bait and switch to the hilt. Okay. The next thing that you will hear, another big, huge red flag, oftentimes that you're in a relationship with a narcissist, is many times there's some sob story about their past. Whether or not they had a horrible childhood, they had terrible trauma, they had a horrible ex, that, usually it's some ex that was awful, keeping their kids away from them. There's some victim thing going on about something. They want you to feel sorry for them, because they're conditioning to see if you're going to be empathetic, if you are going to be a good person, if you're going to be a good source of supply. They're going to see if you're caring and take care of them. So they're going to let you know about how awful things have been for them. And you're going to want to say, oh no, this is awful. There's going to be something about their past or something that's going to draw you in. Okay. So some sob story about how awful things have been with them in the past. All right. So that's the second thing. Some family relationship that's terrible. All right. The third thing, this third major red flag, is they're immediately going to be very jealous of your time and attention with other people, and especially people that you're close to. Why do you need to spend time with them? You know, you have me. Why are you spending so much time on the phone? Let's spend time just with each other. You know, things of that nature. Come on, let's spend time just the two of us. We don't get enough time with just us. You know, they're going to immediately start to isolate you from the people that you're close to, from the people that you have spent the most of time with. Oh, your friends are so immature, you know, oh, they don't really like me, you know, things like that. So immediately jealous of you. Oh, you know, that person was looking at you. I don't like that. And, you know, sometimes if you are an insecure person, you might like that this person is jealous, or you might like that. It can be a huge red flag if this person is overly controlling, overly jealous. I don't like you when you're wearing that. I don't like when you're wearing that outfit. That's too revealing. Things like that. That can be not a good sign when they're overly jealous or controlling like that right from the beginning. That's a huge red flag, right? And if you've seen any of these things so far, give me a totally in the comments. And if you've seen that, then it's probably a huge red flag. All right, next one, I alluded to this at the beginning with the too much too soon, is they want that immediate commitment. Immediate commitment. This is where they're looking for, I want to move in. I want you to marry me. I want you to sign something. I want you to get to that next level right away. They want to get to the devalue stage as quickly as possible, because once they lock you in, once they get to that next level, then they can start to relax a little bit and get to what they want to really be able to do, which is start making some withdrawals. I want to really start collecting on some narcissistic supply here. I don't really want to have to keep making deposits, because, you know, it's kind of exhausting for them. They don't want to have to keep, you know, satisfying your needs at all, actually. So they want an immediate commitment, right? So they want to lock you down. They want to lock down that source of supply. So that's number 4. Number 5 is the future faking. The future faking. Planning right away what it's all going to look like. Right away, what the future is. We're going to get married. We're going to have babies. We're going to, like, within the first 2 weeks, even sometimes, we're going to have this life together. We're going to live on a farm. We're going to live in a city. We're going to have a big house. You know, all of these things right away. Whether or not they plan on delivering any of that doesn't matter, because they want to immediately lock you in. They want to get you to that commitment right away. So tell us what your definition is of love bombing.
My definition of love bombing is when you meet someone and from the beginning, they inundate you with lovely, I love you messages. You're the best thing since sliced bread. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. They text you all the time. They call you all the time. They FaceTime you. They spend a lot of time with you. They buy extravagant gifts for you. They do extravagant gestures for you. And it's like a dream come true. You think it's the best thing ever, but it's all a lie, because you'll find out later on when they go through the other processes that narcissists do that it wasn't genuine. It was all a means to their madness to try to control you.
And usually it's pretty quick that you find that out. So tell us about that.
It's very quick that you find that out, because maybe we're talking a month, and like in the first 2 weeks, everything moved very, very fast. And then that person wanted to come visit me at my house during the pandemic. I let him come here. And then immediately when he left, things changed. It was like night and day. He wasn't calling me as much. He wasn't texting me as much. He wasn't telling me these wonderful things anymore. It was like immediately things changed, and it started the devalue and the discard process of what narcissists do.
Okay, so tell us about devalue and discard. Let's go to devalue next.
Yeah, so with mindset narcissists and all narcissists, because birds of a feather flock together, they all do the same thing. With the devalue process, everything that I did wasn't good enough anymore, or I was becoming worrisome, or I was calling too much, or I was needy. Whereas I just talked to you last week all day for 7 hours, but now you don't have time for me, or you're working all the time. Whereas before you had all the time in the world to call me. You call me all day, all night. We would be on the phone all day, all night, but everything changed now. So I wasn't good enough. I don't really think he would say that I would have issues, that I had unresolved issues like with my parents, and just tried to downplay me or make me think that I wasn't good enough all of a sudden, where before I was his princess, his queen, and saying, different terms of endearment like that. And it immediately changed.
Right. And then how is it that narcissists get people to then stay in their world? Because they devalue right away, and all of a sudden you're needy, they're lying, they're ghosting you, they're not showing up. Why wouldn't people just immediately go, I don't need this? How do people get that? How do narcissists get people to stay there?
How do they get, well, for me, and just in general, in that love bombing stage, that is very addicting. It's like it's synonymous to you being addicted to crack or addicted to heroin, where you're on a drug, you're in a euphoric feeling, so you always want to feel that feeling. And as soon as you say something, because that happened when I was going through the devalue stage, in the discard stage, where I saw something wasn't right and things weren't adding up. It seemed like he was bipolar, or he had like some personality issues. I didn't know what it was, but I just knew something was wrong. And me and him got into like a really, really bad argument. And he was yelling at me at the top of his lungs. He was just really acting like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. And I said, this is too much for me. I wish you nothing but the best. God bless you. Good luck. And at that time, I'm like, I'm about to move on because something is wrong here. And that's immediately that night, he started to gaslight me and love bomb me again. And so because you already had that initial euphoric love bombing period where you're already bonded with this person or trauma bonded with them, when they're saying these things again, because you're a natural empath and you're believing what they're saying to you because you tell the truth, you would think someone else would tell the truth. So you get sucked back into it. And then it starts over and over again, and they keep it going. So, like, I remember vividly being on the phone, like, am I in the Twilight Zone? Why is this person saying all these things to me? And now he's calling me at 2:00 in the morning saying, oh, you're going to leave me? You're going to make me get another woman? I thought you said you love me. I thought you said you want to spend the rest of them. You just called me everything but a child of God 3 hours ago, sir. What is going on here? And so I didn't know anything about narcissism. I didn't know this is what people do. So I didn't know.
Right. They know how to manipulate you. They know exactly what to say. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yes.
And they future fake you.
Yes.
And
yes.
they say exactly what they know you want to hear. Absolutely. So that you'll stay.
Absolutely.
And it's this rubber band thing that they push you to the edge and then they snap you back in. Right?
Yes. And this happened to me at least 30 times, where we would get in an argument or I would try to leave him alone. And I still didn't know he was a narcissist. Still didn't know. And he, like you just said, the pushing and the pulling and the devaluing and the discarding and then the gaslighting, it was total BS the whole time. It's like, if you say you want to do something, if you want to be with me, then be with me. the next stage that happened was he was coming.
I wanted you to explain that, because I want people to understand, people who aren't in relationships with narcissists, to understand, well, why don't people just leave? If they're treating you badly, why don't you just leave? And because a lot of people, I think that. And I want you to explain, it's just so not that easy. And and I think it's really important that you explain why it's not so easy to just go, "Oh, yeah, I'm just going to be out of here,
It's not easy, because I would talk to my mother about it, and she wouldn't understand. Just, why can't you just let it go? Why can't you just leave him alone? And if it was a regular relationship, that's exactly that's what you would do in a regular relationship. But this is not a regular relationship. This is something that I feel is very demonic, very toxic. And anytime you try to leave, their sole mission is to control you, to use you for their narcissistic supply, because they're empty and soulless on the inside. So they don't want you to leave because they're sucking all your goodness away from you. Okay. And every time you have an interaction with them, they're pulling that energy, they're pulling your vibe, they're pulling all of your inner goodness, and they're using that to fill themselves up. So that's one thing. Another thing is that anytime you try to leave them and you try to move on down the road, they're going to do many different tactics to pull you back in and to grab you back in, just so they can have you under their thumb. It's the sickest thing I've ever encountered, because I literally can tell you, I'm like, why won't this person just leave me alone? And then they would have other people that they're talking to, that they're dating. He had a whole girlfriend I didn't even know anything about. And then he would have several other people that he's talking to at the same time. So why are you bothering me? Leave me alone. I've said, leave me alone. I want to go on with my life. Every time I try to go on with my life, he's pulling me back in. I love you. Don't leave me. All of this. And every time, for at least the first 10 times, you want to believe it, because you really, from the love bombing stage, you really are in love with this person.
Mm-hmm. And you want to believe somehow on some level that maybe they do love you. Maybe they do think that you're special, that, you do have something that's real. Yes.
Well, you think it's real. I thought it was real. I thought, I was the Bonnie to his Clyde, because he was artistic. He was into artistic endeavors. And I was an actress. I was going to be his muse. I just thought he was like the best thing ever. And I really thought that this was my guy. This was my man. Would be my potential soulmate. But it was all a lie. It was all a lie. And as the process kept going on and on and on, and into a year later, and he's still doing the same things, it's like enough is enough. You start writing about it, you start researching, you start finding wonderful people like yourselves, like you, on Instagram and on Facebook, where you see, okay, I'm not crazy. This is a thing. This is real. This person is systematically trying to manipulate me and trying to take control of me, and is literally playing me to the left. And once you realize that and you see everything that's going on, you're like, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm just going to have to figure out a way to heal from this and move on.
Yeah. And what was that moment for you?
I knew when we were on one of the we were on the apps, and he was trying to embarrass me, having his flying monkeys. And those are terms for people that are advocates for the narcissist, to take up for them, that believe everything that they say, and they attack you in the process because they're trying to defend the narcissist. When he sent his flying monkeys out to me, I knew that something was wrong. Why would this person try to embarrass me? Why would this person try to harm me when I'm just trying to go on my way? I think the worst thing that you can do to a narcissist is expose them. And from the beginning, once I saw that first I called him a love bomber because that was the first term that I found. But as I saw that he was a narcissist, I was really working hard to say, hey, this person isn't right. Okay. But at the same time, he was starting a whole smear campaign against me, saying that I was crazy, that I was psycho, that I was stalking him, and all of these lies, where people would literally believe him until I started recording the conversations that we would have. And I started doing that because no one would believe the things that I'm saying because they're believing him. They're not believing me. They think I'm a stalker. They think I'm crazy, and I'm not. And it just, enough became enough. I started journaling because I literally thought I was losing my mind. And my friend, I would talk to a small amount of friends because people wouldn't believe me and they didn't understand what was going on. So you couldn't really talk to a lot of people about what was going on because people would get frustrated. A couple of people stopped talking to me because they said that talking about this was triggering for them or it was too negative. And so there was a small amount of friends that I could talk to. And one of them told me, like, Mara, you should just write this down. And it sounds like you're in a whole like telenovela of a soap opera. This could be a movie.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
Be,
I mean, that's what it's like living with them.
That's what it's like. And Rebecca, what's really interesting is that the relationship that I had with this narcissist was only 2 months long, but it felt like it was 2.5 years long.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was in a business partnership with a narcissist. And when I realized that from beginning to end, it was only 1 year, I couldn't believe it because it felt like 10
years.
Yeah. Yeah. So I believe it. And so how did you get out of it then?
Truthfully, to this day, he still contacts me. I blocked him. I actually have to go to court against my narcissist because it's just a big deal for me to advocate for myself because he owes me a substantial amount of money. And I had to prove to myself that you can't do this to people, that there are consequences and repercussions. So I'm going to take you to the highest extent of the law. Have I tried to rectify the situation or, have a compromise? Yes. But he called me out my name and told me to take him to court. Okay. Just unfortunately, it's taken 2 years for that court case to come around in New York City. So.
Well, that's what happens, right?
Yes.